Hello friends, it's Anayat and I'm here to talk to you about Pachakuti, Andean cycles of time. Now, time is something we in the West, in the scientific world, normally think of as being linear. The past is behind us, we're in the present, the future is out there somewhere. And this concept was strengthened by Greek rationalism. It's a linear view. It was also enforced by St. Augustine, who said that all the events in the Bible only happened once. Therefore, things can only happen once. They don't happen cyclically. They don't repeat. This was further strengthened by Descartes, who introduced the notion of scientific separation between man and the rest of creation, and that the universe, the creation, could be conquered through number, through measure. And if you think about a Cartesian X and Y graph, a number line, you can see how things get separated. They get put in these different structures and spread out. But the natural or aboriginal view of time is cyclical. We see things repeating in the seasons and the moon and other things we'll talk about here in a second. So this concept that you have of time influences how you see reality. A linear concept of time really strengthens the notion of separation. Things are separate from one another. They don't interrelate very well. They're not integrated. They don't have anything to do with one another. Whereas circular concepts strengthen integration, strengthen interrelatedness and relationships, cooperation versus competition. So circular time, it's clearly evident. The time that the sun takes to spin around once on its axis is a day. The time it takes for the moon to orbit the earth is about a month. For us to travel around the sun completely is a year. All of these phases, all of these cycles are messages clearly to us from the world, the universe around us, that time is cyclical. Things are related. Things repeat themselves. So the natural mind, natural cultures, seeing these circular interactions, the native people seeing that eggs develop in oval, round shapes, they're in a circular nest. So the plains peoples made their teepees, their dwellings, in the shapes of these round, energetic structures. From the Celts, Stonehenge, the Ouroboros, the snake swallowing its tail, all of these are expressions of the relatedness, the interactions, the repeating cycles of time. So specifically about Pachakuti, this is an Inca Quechua word. It means the earth, Pacha, the earth, Kuti, to turn upside down or to change its position. So Pachakuti means the earth is turned upside down, or the earth is going through a change. We're experiencing another time cycle, another aspect in the time cycle. The Quero people, who are those who retreated, hid in the mountains when the conquistadors came, when Pizarro and his folks came and stayed there until 1955 in relative isolation, do talk about, and other tribes talk about, a 500-year period of darkness that was coming with the white people over here to the Americas. And the Quero people say that the 10th Pachakuti, or cycle, has begun. So I want to apply hints from the Quero to the concept of the cycles of time. And I started to look at mapping a cyclical motion related to 500 years to something like phases of the moon. So this is a changing, rotating cycle, an ascending light. After a new moon, you have the crest on the right side. It increases, spreads out, the light does, to the full moon. And in our cycle of time, this will relate to a general increase of spiritual awareness and spiritual principles. And as we go through the full moon with the light beginning to wane on the left side of the moon, up until the new moon itself, this is a relative period of spiritual decline, of old patterns breaking down, old ideas that were the past light being recycled in order to germinate again for the next light cycle. So when you map these out, you can play a little bit with the with the calibration here, but I believe this is fairly accurate with 12 and 1012 and 2012 on the left, an ascending light period, and then 512 and 1512 representing an increase in spiritual darkness and old spiritual principles falling away. So a time of decay through the bottom to a time of rebirth at the top. And when you have periods, again, like 512 and 1512, old structures should break down. Around 12 and 1012 and 2012, new ideas, new concepts should come forward. So let's see how certain time periods that are significant to the Aboriginal view, who held the notion of this 500, it'd be paired 500,000 year time cycle, how events affected them. So in 1492, we have an Italian sailor who makes contact in the Caribbean. Actually, not the first person to discover the Americas, but he's got the credit for it. And you can think of that as the beginning of the recent conquest. And the other major milestone being in 1532, we have the South American continent becoming invaded by the explorer conquistador Pizarro. So these two major milestones are sort of the left foot and the right foot of the conquest of the America. These two dates are about 40 years apart. And if you start from 1492 and you add 500 years, which is the Q'ero and other tribes' predicted period of darkness, you end up with 1992. And according to the Q'ero, it was August 1st, 1993 that marked the end of this previous Pachakuti of recycling darkness. Now halfway between the left and right, or north and south conquest dates of 1492 and 1532 is 1512. And if you take 1512 and you add 500 years to that, you end up with a very interesting date, 2012. This is also the year that the Mayan calendar ends at.